USS Liberty, the incident that never was. A documentary treatment. Classification, formerly restricted. Date of incident, June 8, 1967. Location, international waters, Eastern Mediterranean Sea. Fade-in. Frame 1, the calm before. The screen flickers to life with a scratched, grainy texture of declassified 16mm film. Black and white. Deep contrast. The kind of footage that feels like it's been buried in a vault for half a century. A single vessel cuts through the Mediterranean Sea, her hull painted the utilitarian gray of the United States Navy. The USS Liberty, AGTR-5, a technical research ship bristling with electronic surveillance equipment. Her silhouette is unmistakable, antennas rising like a forest of metal trees from her superstructure, radar dishes rotating with mechanical precision, wire arrays stretching across her deck in geometric patterns. The camera moves with deliberate slowness, a long lateral tracking shot that emphasizes the ship's isolation. The water is glass smooth, almost unnatural in its tranquility. Mediterranean blue rendered in silver-gray tones. No other vessels visible to the horizon. Just Liberty, alone, 13 miles off the Sinai Peninsula coast. International waters, clearly marked on every chart. The American flag snaps lazily from her mast, each star and stripe visible even in the monochrome palette. The white stripes catch the June sunlight, creating stark contrast against the darker fabric. A 5 by 8 foot ensign, regulation size, unmistakable at distance. The camera lingers on this symbol, holding for 3, 4, 5 seconds. This detail will matter. Sunlight glints off the ship's communication arrays. The visual poetry of the moment is deliberate. Antennas backlit, creating a halo effect, the radio masts reaching toward heaven like the fingers of some technological god. These systems can intercept signals from 300 miles away. Liberty's mission, signals intelligence collection. Electronic eavesdropping on the Six-Day War, then entering its 6th day. Israeli forces advancing across the Sinai. Egyptian armies in retreat. The narrator's voice emerges, deep, measured, the tone of man reading from files that were never meant to be opened. Narrator VO. June 8, 1967. 0800 hours local time. The USS Liberty maintains position in international waters, 14 nautical miles from the Egyptian coast. Her mission, classified. Her crew, 294 men. Her fate, about to intersect with one of the most controversial incidents in modern naval history. An incident that would be buried, denied, and suppressed for decades. The camera begins a slow zoom toward the ship's bridge. Through the windows, shadowy figures move, officers going about their duties. Normal operations. Routine watch. Nothing suggests the approaching maelstrom. Narrator VO. For 8 hours prior to the attack, Israeli reconnaissance aircraft had been circling Liberty. 8 separate flights. Close enough to count the rivets on her hull. Close enough to read the hull number painted in 10-foot-high letters, GTR-5. Close enough to see the American flag flying from her mast. Cut to archival footage, grainy, atmospheric, of a Piper or Cub spotter plane, propeller-driven, making lazy circles. The footage is authentic, pulled from Israeli Defense Force archives. The small aircraft banks, its wing dipping, cameras clearly visible mounted beneath the fuselage. The timestamp in the corner reads, 0600 to 1400 HRS. Narrator VO. The reconnaissance missions were thorough, methodical. Every hour, on the hour, Israeli aircraft photographed Liberty from multiple angles. Her identity was not in question. Her nationality was not in doubt. She was American. She was clearly marked. She was in international waters. The screen fills with a photograph, one of those taken during reconnaissance, showing Liberty from above, her deck layout visible, the American flag a white starburst against the dark ocean. A red circle has been drawn around the ship in grease pencil, the kind of tactical marking used in briefing rooms. Narrator VO. And yet at 1,400 hours, the order was given. The USS Liberty was to be attacked. The film stock shifts, becomes even grainier, more degraded, as if we're transitioning into footage that was never meant to be preserved. The audio warps slightly, adding to the sense of forbidden documentation. Sequence 2. The approach. Aerial perspective, Mirage cockpit. The point of view shifts violently. We are now in the cockpit of a Dassault Mirage 3 fighter bomber. The canopy glass is scratched, oil-stained. Through it, the Mediterranean spreads below, a sheet of hammered silver. The pilot's breathing is amplified through his oxygen mask. Rhythmic, mechanical, slightly distorted. No dialogue, just breath. Just the rising whine of the jet engine pushing toward attack speed. The camera is mounted to capture the pilot's gloved hands on the stick and throttle. Every movement is precise, professional. These are not the hands of someone uncertain. These are the hands of someone following orders. Instruments flash by in quick cuts. Airspeed indicator climbing, altimeter dropping, weapons system displays lighting up with target acquisition symbols. Each gauge is filmed in tight close-up, the details rendered with technical accuracy, the Hebrew lettering on some instruments, the French manufacturer stamps on others. The HUD, though primitive by modern standards, 1967 technology, shows a targeting reticle. It sweeps across empty ocean, then locks. A vessel appears in the distance, small at first, growing larger as the Mirage descends. Narrator VO. 2 Mirage 3 fighters. Unmarked. All identifying symbols removed. They approach from the east, out of the sun, combat formation, descending through 8,000 feet at 0.9 Mach. The camera captures the second Mirage in formation, a wingman position slightly behind and to the left. The aircraft is indeed unmarked. No Star of David on the fuselage. No tail, numbers visible. Combat configuration. Rockets loaded, 30mm cannon armed. The pilot's hand moves to the weapon selector. A thumb toggle switches 1, 2, 3 in quick succession. Red lights illuminate on the instrument panel. Master arm hot. The universal language of combat aviation. Narrator VO. The pilots have been briefed. Their target, a vessel identified in their orders as hostile. The intelligence is specific. The coordinates are precise, but the intelligence is wrong. Or perhaps the intelligence is a lie. Through the canopy, the USS Liberty grows from a toy-sized silhouette to a full ship. The camera zooms, simulating the pilot's visual acquisition. Details emerge. The forest of antennas, the American flag, the hull number clearly visible even from altitude. The pilot's breathing intensifies. 3 short breaths, quick succession. The sound of a man steeling himself for action, for violence, for a mission that cannot be recalled. Narrator VO. Later testimony will reveal what these pilots saw, what they could not have missed. The American flag flying at full mast. The hull markings identifying Liberty as a United States vessel. The distinctive configuration of a technical research ship, unlike any vessel in the Egyptian Navy, unlike any vessel in any Arab Navy. The crosshairs settle on Liberty's center mass. The ship grows to fill the entire field of view. Men visible on deck, tiny figures going about their duties. Unaware, unsuspecting. A tone sounds, high-pitched, insistent. The weapon's lock indicator. The pilot's hand tightens on the trigger. Sequence 3. First strike. Deck of USS Liberty. The transition is instantaneous. Violent. From the antiseptic calm of the cockpit to the sudden, visceral chaos of an attack. A sailor, young, maybe 22, wearing dungarees and a white sailor's cap, is standing amidships, clipboard in hand, conducting routine maintenance checks. The sun is bright. The day is beautiful. He's probably thinking about mail call, about his girlfriend back in Virginia Beach, about the fact that his rotation is almost over. Then, the scream of jet engines. His head snaps up. The clipboard falls from his hands, papers scattering in the sudden wind generated by 2 aircraft breaking the sound barrier at low altitude. The camera, handheld, shaking, panicked, follows his gaze upward. 2 delta wing shapes. Silver gray against the blue sky, pulling out of a dive, so low the jet wash disturbs the ocean's surface. Sound: the thunder of 30 millimeters cannon fire, a sound like a metal sheet being ripped, amplified 1,000 times. The deck erupts, not in a Hollywood explosion, no fireball, no dramatic orange flames. This is the ugly reality of modern weapons. Metal tearing through metal, hydraulic lines rupturing, electrical systems shorting, men being eviscerated by hypervelocity projectiles designed to destroy armored vehicles. A close-up, 30 millimeters rounds impacting the deck plating. Each impact creates a fist-sized crater, metal petals blooming outward from the wound. Sparks cascade. In slow motion, 120 frames per second, we see the rounds walking across the deck in a diagonal line, systematic, professional, each burst part of a strafing pattern designed for maximum area coverage. The young sailor is caught in the open. The camera shows his face, 1 second of frozen recognition, the understanding that death has arrived, before he's thrown sideways by an impact we don't see, only infer. He disappears behind a ventilator housing. The camera doesn't follow. This is not exploitation. This is documentation. Men scatter, some toward hatch covers, seeking safety below decks, others to their duty stations, damage control teams, firefighting equipment, anyone with military training defaulting to procedure even in the face of overwhelming force. Narrator, veal. The first pass lasts 30 seconds. 30 seconds of cannon fire from both aircraft. Approximately 800 rounds expended. The effect is devastating. Liberty's deck is transformed into a killing ground. Cut to the signal bridge. For sailors are stationed here, operating semaphore equipment, visual communication systems. They're exposed, high on the superstructure with nowhere to hide. The camera mounts on a fixed position, perhaps a security camera, perhaps just a stationary documentation system, captures the moment the second aircraft makes its run. The angle is from behind the sailors, looking forward toward the bow. Tracer rounds, every fifth round visible even in daylight. Burning magnesium creating lines of light, arc toward the position. The geometry is beautiful and terrible. The tracers leave white streaks on the film negative, overexposed, creating a web of death. All 4 men are killed. The camera captures their bodies being thrown by impacts, ragdoll physics, limbs at wrong angles. It holds for 2 seconds documentation, not sensationalism, then cuts away. Narrator, veal. Of the 4 men on the signal bridge, none survive the first attack. Similar casualties are mounting throughout the ship. Communications personnel are being specifically targeted. This is not random strafing. This is a deliberate attempt to prevent Liberty from calling for help. The main communication room, deep in the ship's superstructure, receives its first damage. A cannon round penetrates the steel plating, ricochets off a bulkhead, tears through the main transmitter array. Sparks fountain. Vacuum tubes explode. A radio man is thrown backward by the concussive force. His headset ripped from his head. Radio man, shouting, panicked. We're under attack. Unknown aircraft. We need to get a message out. His superior officer, a chief petty officer, older, gray hair visible beneath his cap, is already at the backup transmitter, hands moving with the muscle memory of 30 years service. Chief, all frequencies. Mayday on all frequencies. This is United States Ship Liberty. We are under attack by unidentified aircraft. His finger hammers the transmission key. The camera close-up shows his hand. Age spots visible, a wedding ring catching the emergency lighting. Pressing the key in the rhythm of Morse code. SOS, SOS, SOS. But something is wrong. The signal strength meter barely registers. The needle quivers, drops to 0, bounces back weakly. Chief, we're being jammed. Someone's jamming our frequencies. Cut to oscilloscope display. The screen shows the signature of their transmission, a clean sine wave, being overwhelmed by a massive interference pattern. Multiple jamming signals, powerful, sophisticated, covering every frequency Liberty is attempting to use. Narrator, veal. The jamming is comprehensive. covering not just Liberty's primary frequencies, but every backup channel, every emergency band. This requires precise intelligence about Liberty's communication capabilities. This requires foreknowledge. This requires planning. Sequence 4. The Flag. An artistic shot, perhaps the most iconic of the entire documentary, rendered with the stark beauty of wartime photography. The American flag, still flying from the main mast, fills the frame. The camera is positioned low, shooting upward, making the flag massive against the sky. Each stripe is clearly visible, each star distinct even in the monochrome rendering. Smoke drifts across the frame from left to right. Acrid, black, oil-based, from fires raging on the deck below. The smoke partially obscures the flag, creates shifting patterns of light and shadow. Then, impact. A rocket, 68 mm SNEB unguided air-to-ground, strikes the mast 8 feet below the flag. The explosion is captured in multiple angles, likely from different cameras positioned around the ship, edited together. Angle 1. Wide shot, the full mast visible, the flash of impact, metal fragments radiating outward in a sphere. Angle 2. From deck level, looking up, the explosion creating a ring of fire. Angle 3. Tight on the flag itself, which whips violently in the blast wave. The mast doesn't fall. It's military-grade steel, designed to withstand battle damage. But it bends. The flag drops 10 feet as the mast buckles, then catches, holds. Fire begins to consume the lower portion of the flag. The flames are rendered in shades of black and gray, dark tongues of heat that char the fabric, causing it to curl and blacken. The fire climbs. Stripe by stripe, the flag is being destroyed. A sailor emerges onto the signal bridge, or what's left of it. He's wounded, blood visible on his uniform, dark against the light fabric in monochrome. He sees the burning flag and, without hesitation, begins climbing the damaged mast. Narrator, Veil, Seaman Apprentice Stewart, 19 years old, from Kansas. He will climb the mast 3 times during the attack to replace the flag. Each time, the flag will be shot down or burned. Each time, he will climb again. The camera follows his ascent, handheld, shaky, urgent. His hands grip, rungs still hot from the rocket impact. Below him, the deck is chaos. Fires, smoke, wounded men being dragged to cover. Above him, the sky contains enemy aircraft circling for another pass. He reaches the burning flag, uses a knife to cut the halyards. The flag falls, trailing smoke, lands on the deck below where it continues to burn. From a canvas bag slung over his shoulder, Stewart produces a fresh flag, folded in the traditional triangle, ceremonial, impossible to obtain in the middle of a battle except through advanced preparation. Someone had thought ahead. Someone knew they might need to do this. He clips the flag to the halyard. Pulls. Hand over hand, the new flag rises. The camera captures it unfurling. Slow motion, each fold opening, the stripes extending, the canton with its stars spreading across the pole. Even in black and white, even through smoke and destruction, the symbol is powerful, defiant. Narrator, Veil. The flag is a statement. We are American. We are non-combatant. We are protected under international law. But the flag makes no difference. The attacks continue. As if to punctuate this narration, another mirage screams past, cannon fire stitching across the superstructure. Rounds impact the mast again. The newly raised flag shudders, but holds. Stewart descends. The camera captures his face in close-up as he reaches the deck. Young, terrified, determined. Blood runs from a cut above his eye. He doesn't wipe it away. He's looking up at the flag, making sure it's still flying. It is. Sequence 5. The radio room. The communication center is a scene of controlled chaos. This is the nerve center of the ship. The reason Liberty exists. Banks of radio receivers, cryptographic equipment, recording devices, all housed in a compartment deep within the ship's superstructure, theoretically protected by steel bulkheads and armor plating. But protected is a relative term when aircraft are firing armor-piercing rounds. 3 radio men are working frantically. The camera captures them in a series of rapid cuts. Radio Man 1 is at the main console, headphones clamped over his ears, adjusting frequency dials with one hand while keying a microphone with the other. His lips move. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is U.S. Navy ship Liberty. We are under attack. Radio Man 2 is routing cables, bypassing damaged systems, creating new signal paths through equipment that was never designed to function this way. His hands are bleeding, minor cuts from sharp metal edges, but he doesn't stop. Tools hang from his belt. Wire strippers, crimpers, electrical tape. Radio Man 3, the youngest, perhaps 20, is operating a portable transmitter, something dragged from emergency stores, battery-powered, weak but functional. He's reading from a handwritten note, coordinates, ship identification, severity of damage. The chief is coordinating all three, directing their efforts like a conductor with an orchestra, except the instruments are electronic warfare systems and the composition is a desperate plea for survival. Chief, keep cycling frequencies. They can't jam everything simultaneously. There has to be gaps in their coverage. A massive impact shakes the entire room. Dust rains from the overhead. Light fixtures swing wildly. One of the main transmitter banks shorts out in a cascade of sparks. Vacuum tubes exploding in sequence like a string of firecrackers. Radio Man 1 lost the primary. Chief, switch to backup 3. Backup 3 is still hot. The camera captures the transition. Hands flying over switches, cables being rerouted, men working with the kind of desperate efficiency that only comes from knowing that their lives and the lives of their shipmates depend on getting a message through. On oscilloscope, we see their signal, weak, intermittent, fighting through a wall of jamming. The interference pattern is sophisticated, clearly military grade, covering multiple frequency bands simultaneously. Narrator, veil. The jamming is not random. Analysis will later show it precisely targeted Liberty's assigned frequencies. Information that should have been classified, known only to United States Navy communications networks. The question that will haunt investigators: how do the attackers know exactly which frequencies to jam? Radio Man 2 is now climbing into the overhead, accessing the antenna feed lines. The space is cramped, barely enough room for a man to fit. Cables and pipes run in every direction. He's working by feel as much as sight, tracing damaged lines, finding breaks, splicing, and bypasses. Radio Man 2 calling down. About the break. Section 4 Charlie is severed. I can bridge it, but I need another impact. Closer. The entire ship rings like a struck bell. Radio Man 2 loses his grip, falls 8 feet to the deck, lands hard. He doesn't scream. Professional training, adrenaline, shock. He rolls, assesses for injuries, gets back up. Radio Man 2. I'm good. Give me the bypass cable. The chief hands him a cable assembly. Their eyes meet. No words. None needed. The chief's expression says, "You don't have to go back up there." Radio Man 2's expression replies, "Yes, I do." He climbs back into the overhead. The camera holds on the chief's face. He's listening to the tactical frequency on a headset, monitoring the attacks, hearing the screams and damage reports from all over the ship. His expression is stone, but his hands, resting on the console, are trembling. Narrator, veil. At 1,419 hours, 29 minutes into the attack, a partial transmission breaks through the jamming. It reaches the U.S. 6th Fleet Carrier Group, 100 miles west. For words, Liberty under attack. Need help. On a screen, represented as an oscilloscope or perhaps a teletype printer, we see the message fragmenting through. LIBR UND ATT NAD. Incomplete, distorted, but unmistakable. Cut to aircraft carrier bridge. Officers in crisp uniforms, suddenly alert, gathered around a communication station. An officer, captain's insignia, grabs a handset. Carrier captain, give me Washington. Priority flash, give me the Joint Chiefs. Give me. The sequence cuts before he finishes. We don't see the rest of this conversation. Not yet. That revelation comes later. Back on Liberty, Radio Man 2 emerges from the overhead, covered in soot, bleeding from multiple cuts, but holding a cable triumphantly. Radio Man 2. Antenna 3 is back online. We have transmission capability. Chief, all stations broadcast in the clear. No encryption. We need volume. We need everyone to hear us. Multiple transmitters activate simultaneously. The camera captures the moment. A wall of radio equipment, every meter surging, every indicator light blazing, the entire electromagnetic spectrum around Liberty suddenly flooding with American voices calling for help. Multiple voices overlapping. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is United States ship Liberty. We are under attack by unidentified jet aircraft and motor torpedo boats. Position 31 degrees north, 33 degrees east. Require immediate assistance. The camera slowly pulls back from the frantic activity, the sound mixing down to a single, unified voice. The voice of 294 men fighting for survival. Sequence 6. The torpedo boats. The attack has been underway for 35 minutes. Liberty's deck is a hellscape of twisted metal, burning equipment, and wounded men. The jet attacks have subsided. The Mirages have expended their ordnance, made their runs, turned back toward Israeli airspace. For a brief moment, there's hope. The worst seems over. Then, a lookout's voice, raw with exhaustion and fresh terror. Lookout. Surface contacts. Bearing 180. 3 contacts. Fast attack craft. The camera swings to the south. Through the smoke and haze, 3 shapes resolve. Low, lean, aggressive. Motor torpedo boats. Israeli Navy Sayar class, capable of 35 knots, armed with 40mm cannons and torpedoes. The cinematography shifts here. The aerial footage was clinical, almost detached, the perspective of weapons platforms. But the approach of the torpedo boats is intimate, predatory. The camera captures them from Liberty's perspective, growing larger, bow waves white against the gray sea, approaching in a standard attack formation. 1 central, 2 flanking. Narrator VO. At 1,435 hours, 3 Israeli motor torpedo boats, hull numbers 203, 206, and 207, close on the Liberty at high speed. The ship, damaged and listing, cannot maneuver effectively, cannot defend itself, cannot run. The torpedo boats are rendered with meticulous detail. Each is approximately 45 meters long, painted in the two-tone gray scheme of the Israeli Navy. The Star of David is clearly visible on their hulls. Unlike the unmarked aircraft, these boats display their nationality openly. Close up on the lead boat's bridge, shadowy figures behind armored glass, binoculars raised, studying the damaged American ship. The camera captures this from Liberty's perspective, using a telephoto lens that compresses the distance, makes the torpedo boat seem closer than it is, adds to the sense of claustrophobic threat. A signalman on Liberty's deck, one of the few communication personnel still alive, raises a signal lamp, begins flashing a message in international code. We are American. We need assistance. The camera captures the flashing light in close-up, bright pulses in the monochrome rendering, the dots and dashes of maritime communication, a language older than radio, the last resort when all else fails. The torpedo boats do not respond. They do not signal back. They do not reduce speed. Instead, their forward guns open fire. The 40mm cannons create a distinct sound, deeper than the aircraft cannon, a rhythmic thump, 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 like a giant's heartbeat. The camera captures muzzle flashes from the boats, then switches to impact shots on Liberty's hull. These rounds are designed for anti-ship combat. They punch through Liberty's thin hull plating as if it were paper. Each impact creates a fist-sized hole on entry, a basketball-sized exit wound as the round explodes internally. Men on deck, many already wounded from the air attacks, scramble for new cover. But there is no cover. Liberty is a floating target designed for electronic warfare, not naval combat. She has no armor, no defensive weapons, no way to fight back. Narrator VO. The torpedo boats circle Liberty like sharks, firing into the superstructure, the hull, the deck. Every cannon burst, is aimed with precision. They target the waterline, attempting to sink the ship. They target the life rafts. This moment requires special attention. The life rafts. As casualties mount and Liberty's list increases, the decision is made to prepare for abandoned ship. Sailors begin deploying life rafts. Inflatable rubber rafts, bright orange, dark gray in the monochrome, each capable of holding 20 men. The camera captures the process. Sailors struggling with the canisters, pulling the inflation lanyards, the rafts hissing as they expand, being pushed overboard where they float tethered to the sinking ship. A life raft hits the water. Bobs begins to drift slightly in the current. One of the torpedo boats alters course, heads directly toward the raft. The camera, still on Liberty's deck, captures what happens next with clinical precision. The torpedo boat approaches the raft at speed. Its forward gun swivels, elevates slightly, aims directly at the floating raft. Fire. The first burst misses, creates a waterspout 3 feet from the raft. Correction. Fire again. The second burst hits. The raft explodes in a spray of rubber and foam. Deflates instantly. Sinks. Narrator VO. Firing upon life rafts is a war crime under the Geneva Convention. It is an act specifically prohibited in international law, designed to protect sailors in distress. The torpedo boats will destroy multiple life rafts during the attack. This is not negligence. This is not confusion. This is murder. The camera captures the faces of sailors on Liberty's deck witnessing this. Young faces, mostly. Boys, really. They're watching their escape route being systematically destroyed. The realization is visible in their expressions. The attackers don't just want to disable Liberty. They want to sink her. They want no survivors. One sailor, we'll call him Matthews, though his name is never spoken, stands at the rail, staring at the destroyed life rafts. His hands grip the railing so tightly his knuckles are white even in the monochrome. His mouth moves, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a curse. The camera holds on him for 5 seconds. This is the face of a man understanding he's going to die. Officer shouting off camera. Get away from the rail. Everyone below decks. Prepare for torpedo impact. Because the torpedo boats are maneuvering for their primary attack. The lead boat, 203, turns broadside, presenting its torpedo tubes. The camera captures this maneuver from multiple angles. Wide shot, the full boat visible, the turn graceful despite the speed. Medium shot, the torpedo tubes visible on the deck, the crew preparing. Close up, a crewman's hand on the firing mechanism. Narrator VO. Each Sire-class boat carries 4 533mm torpedoes. At this range, less than 2,000 yards, a torpedo is nearly impossible to evade, even for a maneuverable warship. For the damaged, listing Liberty, evasion is impossible. On Liberty's bridge, the officer of the deck grabs a handset, his voice booming through the 1MC, the ship-wide announcing system. Officer of the deck. All hands brace for impact. Torpedo in the water. Torpedo in the water. The camera cuts to interior spaces. Sailors grabbing stanchions, pipes, anything bolted down. Some are praying. Some are stone-faced. Some are crying. All are brave in their own way, staying at their stations, doing their jobs, even as death approaches at 40 knots. The torpedo itself is captured in a remarkable piece of cinematography, likely recreated for documentary purposes, but effective nonetheless. Underwater camera, perhaps 5 feet below the surface. The torpedo enters frame from the right, moving left, a dark shape, propeller spinning, leaving a trail of bubbles. The camera tracks with it, maintaining position, the torpedo growing larger as it approaches Liberty's hull. Through the water, Liberty's underwater hull is visible, the red anti-fouling paint, dark and monochrome. The curved plates, the keel. The torpedo adjusts its depth slightly, homing in on the center mass. Impact occurs in slow motion. The torpedo strikes Liberty's starboard side, just below the waterline, approximately amidships. The warhead contains 250 kilograms of high explosive. When it detonates, it creates a cavitation bubble, a sphere of superheated gas expanding at supersonic speed, then collapsing, creating a secondary shock wave actually more destructive than the initial blast. The camera captures this from multiple perspectives. Exterior, a massive gout of water erupts from Liberty's side, rising 50 feet into the air, white foam and spray, backlit by the sun, creating a momentary rainbow effect even in monochrome. Interior, the explosion rips through berthing compartments where men are seeking shelter. The bulkheads buckle inward. Deck plates lift. Pipes rupture, flooding the space with superheated steam. Men are thrown like dolls. The water rushing in is a living thing, a wall of gray-green death, filling the compartment in seconds. Close up, a sailor's face, underwater, mouth open in a silent scream, hands clawing upward toward light that's no longer reachable. The camera pulls back, mercifully, before showing the final moment. Some horrors are best left to imagination. 25 men die in the torpedo blast and the flooding that follows. 25 men who are below decks, seeking safety, who believed that if they just got away from the exposed deck, they would survive. Narrator VO. The torpedo tears a 40-foot hole in Liberty's hull. The ship immediately takes on a 9-degree list to starboard. Damage control teams work frantically to seal the breach, to shore up bulkheads, to keep the ship afloat. They are fighting not just the damage, but the Mediterranean itself, pouring into the wound at thousands of gallons per minute. Sequence 7. The phone call. The perspective shifts violently. We're no longer on Liberty. We are no longer in the Mediterranean. We are in the Pentagon, Washington, D.C., the heart of American military power. The National Military Command Center, a room deep within the Pentagon's concrete core, designed to survive nuclear attack, to coordinate global military operations, to make decisions that affect millions. The room is large but cramped with technology, wall-sized maps, communication consoles, status boards, screens showing real-time military deployments around the world. It's staffed 24 hours a day by officers from all services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, coordinating the vast machinery of the Department of Defense. The aesthetic here is different. Institutional green walls, fluorescent lighting, the hum of cooling systems keeping the electronics from overheating. The black and white cinematography makes everything look older, more historical, like footage from the Cuban Missile Crisis. A red phone rings. Not metaphorically, literally. A red telephone on a desk, the kind that indicates a priority call, the kind that cannot be ignored. An officer, Navy commander, the stripes visible on his uniform sleeve, picks up the handset. His face is neutral, professional. Then it changes. His eyes widen. His jaw tightens. He's hearing something he cannot believe.